Welcome to another episode of eCom Experiences, a podcast for e-commerce marketing leaders who want to grow and scale their brands faster. Join us as we interview some of the smartest brand founders and marketing leaders in the industry. Explore the lessons they learned, discover the keys to their success, and discuss what excites them most about the future.
Hi, it's Samir Balwani here, host of eCom Experiences, where we talk to brand founders and marketing leaders about their experiences growing brands. This episode is brought to you by Query. Query is a paid media agency that helps brands balance brand awareness and performance marketing to drive predictable and profitable growth. To learn more about how we can help you, visit weareqry.com. I'm really excited about our guest today. I have Amanda Schreier, the General Manager of Global eCommerce at SITA Summit today. I'm so excited to have her here. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, excited to be here.
Cool. Well, Amanda, first things first, tell us your story. How did you get started in marketing? What made you come down this deep, dark path that is our world?
Well, I was in college, graduated 2011, and the internet was obviously a big hot thing. So I was like, I need to be near it and around it. And so I got a job at ComScore, which is kind of e-commerce analytics. They do multiple things now. And I worked there for 9 months and I absolutely hated it. And so I quit my job, spent most of it researching how I could live abroad, which was very dumb, at a web tracking company. And I moved to Prague for a year and I taught English. And when I came back, I knew that it was time. I wanted the regular 9 to 5 with happy hours and, office gossip. And so what I did was I looked for jobs in the outdoor industry because outdoors is a huge passion of mine, skiing, backpacking, you name it. And I found SITA Summit, which is based in Boulder, Colorado. Our headquarters is actually in Perth, Australia. And the story there is SITA Summit was founded by a mountaineer and his friend who thought that it was kind of cheating to start your ascent of Everest from base camp. And so they started from the Bay of Bengal to the top of Everest and went from sea to summit. And the friend, Roland Tyson, designed all the gear for the journey. And Roland is in Perth, Australia. So we're actually an Australian company, but our North American office is in Boulder, Colorado. And so working for SITA Summit has been an awesome opportunity. And that one of the unique things of SITA Summit 10 years ago was we didn't have an online business. And so I think I've actually found in e-commerce specifically, it's more often than not started by someone who just raised their hand and said, hey, we should really do this. And so I raised my hand and I launched our e-com business about 6 years ago, and have been growing the North American business since then. We then launched an Australian e-commerce business in 2020, within a month. And then we are currently in the works of launching up to 10 to 12 markets over the next 3 years in Europe. So it very quickly grew and found success at SITA Summit, and it's been a fun ride.
I love the brand story. I love your journey as you get to it. And one of my favorite things about, as I talk to a lot of marketing leaders like yourself, passion for the brand is so apparent. And I think it's really hard to market something that you yourself are not excited about. And so I love that. So you've been at SITA Summit for 6 years now. So tell me, what's your favorite part about the brand, about your role? What do you like doing?
I think as you kind of just mentioned, it comes down to the product. So it's really neat to be the end user of your product, but also the one responsible for bringing it to the customer. And so working with SITA Summit, we get to work with an amazing product design team who is pretty consistently launching award-winning, innovative products. And then our challenge as an e-commerce team is how do you bring that product story to life online? Which isn't easy. Sometimes it's like, how do you, we have a spoon that honestly, they spent tons of money designing the spoon to the fact that the shape of the head of the spoon is perfectly designed to not rip the corners of your mouth. So little details like that you just get excited about and then think about how you bring that story to life online. And so it's just been they're also kind of wacky. We also have a dry bag that holds toilet paper that we call an outhouse. So we also have the kind of those fun products where you're like, sure, see if it sticks. So it's really comes down to the product and the fact that our product gets people outside and we get to help facilitate that.
That's amazing. It's awesome to hear about how the product, so much thought goes into the product, because I think a lot of people forget that marketing starts with the product. Like you can try as hard as you want to market something, but if it's not a good product that anybody wants, it's not going anywhere. So I do love that you guys design products, use your products, because if we can't get you to use them, then how are we going to get anyone else to use them? And I think that's a really cool thing. That's awesome. Amanda, tell me, as kind of we look ahead to the year, what are the biggest challenges that you're really thinking about? Like, what are you looking at, hoping to overcome and think are the largest risks as you look ahead?
So I think the theme of the year is do more with less. And so it's been spending a lot of time thinking through how we operate and how we can do it more efficiently, quicker, but also how do we increase our production? So a good simple example would be email marketing. The personalization trend has been marked as a trend for like the last 5 years. And with that, to personalize experiences, it just means more content. So how do we find ways to achieve that for our customer base with the same number of team members and also in a way that's cost efficient? So that's been a big thing. I think personally a challenge for how we look at Seed Summit and how we grow over the next 5 years. I think there's also been a lot of talk about bundling. So bundling is viewed as a great way to kind of sell multiple products at once, slip in a discount, get the product out there. For our outdoor hard goods company, where I see bundling as a huge opportunity is it allows us to really tell the full story of a product line. So specifically for backpacking, we have this thing called a sleep system where you have your sleeping mat, your sleeping bag, a pillow, and a sleeping bag liner. And each piece of that allows you to backpack up to certain temperatures so you stay nice and warm. It allows you to stay comfortable, and then it comes in at a certain weight. So when I think about bundling, I now think of this opportunity to allow us to better tell these sleep system stories and kind of tell that brand story in that way. So that's something I'm really excited for this year.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think bundling is a unique opportunity also when you have like a lot of inventory that you're trying to move. And so you can use bundling to kind of sneak some inventory out the door also. The do more with less is definitely the theme of 24. It's been pretty consistent across the board. And from our perspective, I think a lot of people will start to focus in on kind of the 80-20 rule, right? Like focusing in on your top 20% of activities, of customers, of products, and just trying to maximize that to the best of our ability. How are you guys looking at that? How are you actually identifying the things that you want to double down on, that you think, hey, this is actually really valuable to us and we want to make sure we do this? How do you balance that without losing the innovation and experimental elements of what you need to do? Because as you know, marketing is constantly changing, and you don't want to be left behind.
It really comes down to what your strategic vision is for each year and keeping that narrow and specific. I know that marketing is constantly changing and you need to adopt and evolve. But for example, our 3 pillars for strategy this year are acquisition, retention, and sleep system bundling concept. And so with that, each of my team members have a series of goals that are very specifically aligned to those. And each of those pillars have more specific definitions because obviously a lot of things fall within acquisition. And one of the things we have to hold ourselves accountable to is there's 1,000,001 ideas. There's something that we could try every week. But if it doesn't align with the goal that we set at the beginning of the year and where we're trying to accomplish at the end of the year, then it's something that's kind of tabled. I know that's quite a narrow view, and you do have to assess and you do have to pivot if things aren't working, and you have to call it quits pretty quickly because we don't know all the answers. And so to build those kind of stop gaps in, we're talking about our strategic direction and our goals weekly. So we can pivot and we can reassess, but we always go back to that, especially when we kind of go down a rabbit hole of all of these new ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really easy to end up just trying a lot of things and not really understanding what actually worked, or really burning a lot of money in the process of. I think people forget how much it costs to do something, to your point. Like, personalization seems really easy. And it's like, oh yeah, let's segment out, 10 different segments. And you're like, oh wait, I need 10 different emails now. I need 10 different calendars. I need 10 different ad creative, because you probably want it all to tick and tie across the journey. So yeah, I think resource allocation, resource management is something that people forget, especially on like a year like now. Amazing. Are there any other challenges that you're really thinking about, or looking ahead in the year?
Yeah, it's the second half of the year. Yeah, specifically the November time period seems very stressful. Outdoor hard goods is pretty seasonal business. We don't have strong product that, our product can be used year round. You should always be shopping Sea to Summit, but realistically, it's the summer. So I have all of us focused on the first half of the year. How big can we go? How much can we grow? Because the second half, we don't know what the pulse is going to be in the US. We don't know what the ad space is going to look like. As you've taught me, we don't know how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
So, I think for right now, 2024 in my mind is only 6 months long, and then we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, you alluded to it, but I agree. I think Summer Olympics and election year are definitely going to throw us for a loop in the second half of the year. And there's an ad cost to it for sure. I think every election year, it's like, we broke budgets and it's the most they've ever spent. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. Every 4 years you spend more than the last 4 years, you will constantly be breaking the budget. Like, it's not like different. But then there's also just like this attention element to it too. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to break through when everyone's overloaded with everything else that's going on. And so I think, as we look at the end of the year, creative also starts to become even more important. I think leaning on media partners like us to make sure that you guys are in the most cost-effective places. I don't want to spend a ton of money in Florida or any of the other battleground states where it's going to be super expensive. But then also in the places where we are, how do we make sure that we are using the right creative that breaks through and actually it makes people feel better, because I think they're going to need it.
It's kind of recognizing how are people going to exert themselves outside of that space. Like, what are they going to turn to, and can you be that person or product that they turn to? That's honestly something that the outdoor experience during COVID was, one, if you take away everything else you can do, outside is a good alternative. And so how can you be there for that person? And again, we're still fighting for more people to get outside. So that's also a good thing.
Yeah. I love it. So as we look ahead, what are you most excited about for 2024? I know we talked about a lot of the challenges and things that are going to be pretty difficult, but where are you looking at, either in your strategy or just in the industry as a whole, and going, oh, that's a bright light that I'm looking forward to?
Yeah, I think one of the spaces Sea to Summit's entering is we are a global business. We're distributed in over 30 countries, but we're not a global e-commerce business. We sell in a few markets, but like I mentioned earlier, over the next 3 years, we're going to be starting going up to 12 to 15 markets. So 2024 is our kickoff for launching Canada. We're currently selling in Germany and Austria, but we're going to move into the Nordics and Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands region. So we have a whole EU expansion plan. Even in Australia, we're going to be looking at new markets out that way, however many countries are close to Australia. But Yeah, so it's something that's really been made possible by the innovations on Shopify. So Cita Summit is a Shopify customer, and a couple of years ago they launched Shopify Markets. And Shopify Markets has basically made it a free turnkey for us to sell in multiple markets at the right price with the right products, localized to an extent, offer multiple languages. And so because of that, we can now start scaling and launching more markets with a pretty small team. So that's something I'm excited for, a little nervous, launching also, with the new market comes multiple new languages. But yeah, it's a big achievement that we're striving for Cita Summit.
That's awesome. Yeah. New markets, new languages, new rules and regulations, for sure.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think Shopify has been a game changer for e-com as a whole, and has made global just so much easier. I can't imagine. I mean, global plus even US, just knowing tax law by state to just be able to manage that through Shopify makes life so much easier. So that is really exciting. Yeah. When you're looking at global, you said that you're thinking about it over a 3-year period. How are you identifying which markets to start with and then kind of where to go next?
It's more based on our own relationships. So we have a distributor network set up in Europe. And so with the launch of e-commerce, we'll keep that ownership centralized, but then still be in partnerships with distributors. So it's prioritizing larger markets, but it's also recognizing relationships and also appropriate timelines for a big change for a distributor.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a balance of external, internal analysis.
Yeah, I love that because I think that is a viewpoint that a lot of people don't realize or understand. Is just the intricacies of moving into a global business isn't always as easy as just turning on a global website. You're like, oh yeah, no. Shop wherever you want to shop. The relationships and the logistics of it are bigger and deeper than people really understand. That's awesome. I'm excited to see Cita Summit everywhere. I love talking to people and hearing about how they're excited about the brand. So my last question for you is, what advice would you give a new marketing leader or marketing director as they look at being in their role for the first time, trying to build an e-com team, trying to grow an e-com business? What should they do?
It comes down to strategy. So do less. Identify your 1 to 3 things you want to do and what are the supporting things you need to achieve to do that. I think when you're launching an e-commerce business, just get it up. And then from there, then you focus on growth. So then you probably move into acquisition. Retention is a tough one because you always want to focus on it, but you also want to have a large enough customer base for that to warrant your focus. And then I think as you continue to grow and as you accomplish that, I think one of the things that attracts people to e-commerce and marketing is you need a growth mindset. So you always need to be learning and challenging yourself. Never assume you know it all. And be always curious. You can learn something from anyone, and you can also challenge your own assumptions by continuously seeking out new information. And so I think having a very strong strategy that's specific and not too much, and a system in place to hold people accountable to that strategy is step one. And then as you continue to grow, to fuel what that strategy becomes, you need that growth mindset.
I love that you called out the growth mindset. I think that's key for a good marketer for sure. Thank you so much for joining us today, Amanda. If someone wants to find you online, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, I would start with LinkedIn, Amanda Schreier. And if you need any outdoor hard goods or advice on that space, reach out to Cita Summit. We look big, but we're only in North America about a 50-person company. So we all know each other.
I love it. Thank you again so much for joining us. So glad we could be here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, remember to subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes. And if you know someone who would enjoy this show, don't forget to share and leave a review. It all helps us impact more brands. If you're looking to improve your paid media, go to weareqry.com and schedule a consultation. We're always happy to chat. See you for the next one.